Hi, I'm Editor-in-Chief Michael Roffman of Consequence of Sound, and I'm sitting here with Academy Award-winning director Sam Mendes, and we're talking about his World War I epic, 1917. How are you doing?
All right, thank you.
That's great. 1917 is based on stories told to you by your grandfather, Alfred Mendes. Mm-hmm. How did the seeds of those stories blossom into a screenplay?
Well, he fought in the war, and he was only 17, and he never talked about it for the majority of his life. But he decided in his 70s he wanted to tell his grandchildren. And he told us a variety of stories, but there was one particular story he told about carrying a message across no man's land. And that image of him alone, that one man alone in that sort of vast wilderness of surrounded by the dead, really stuck with me. And I thought, what if that journey just continued? And when I sat down to write a script for the first time, that was the story I felt really compelled to tell. So it wasn't about my granddad specifically, but it was because of him that I wrote it.
And when did you know that you wanted to, basically tell it through a series of long shots?
Immediately, and it's one long shot rather than a series. So it's one continuous, experience in a way. And that's what I wanted to create. I wanted to create something that was immersive, and I wanted to feel like we were in a movie that behaves more like a ticking clock thriller at times. I wanted to experience every passing second. I wanted to watch the clock running down in a way with the men and feel the distance they still had to travel and understand the physical difficulty and the geography, and an audience to know unconsciously or consciously that there was no way of jumping time and jumping space, that you had to travel with the men. And so it felt like a natural way to tell the story, if difficult.
Oh, absolutely difficult. What were, the biggest obstacles for you in this long path?
Obstacles, I don't know there were obstacles, challenges all the time, every day challenges. The biggest challenge was that there was no way out, and we had to basically get everything exactly as I wanted it. And that is not just about getting the lines right and get the camera moves right, but the rhythm of the whole movie. Mm-hmm. The stops and starts, the pauses, the shifts of tempo, the changes of pace, the long periods where they perhaps aren't talking, and those are the most difficult things. So that was for me the biggest challenge, was to kind of abandon the get out of jail card that you normally have as a director, which is, well, I don't have to decide that until editing. I can cut a scene out, or I can move it, I can put it somewhere else, or I can change dialogue. I couldn't do any of that. I had to make sure that I had it exactly right on the day. So that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah, because there's sequences where he jumps in the truck. Any other film, they'd be like, all right, well, we'll just see where they go, in the next town and whatever. But no, you have to stay there the entire time. How long were you willing to go with some of your shots, though? Because there are some stitches together.
Yes, I mean, they're long takes stitched together to make an appearance of one shot.
Yeah.
So the longest would be about 9 minutes, which in movie terms is unbelievably long. I mean, in terms of the movie, it's not that long. But they're all within between 5 and 9. You know what I mean? That sort of territory. Yeah. There were some days when, in let's say a 7-minute take, you've got 6 minutes of magic, and you're like, yes, it's going to work, it's going to happen. And then the camera operator trips, or a prop breaks, or a cigarette won't light, or whatever it is. And you can't use, the frustration is not that the take is over, but you can't use any of the 6 minutes of magic. And then you have to try and recreate that, which takes another 5-10 takes. So, so there were days when I thought, why have I done this to myself? And then there were days when I thought, this is the best way to make a movie, and I never want to make a movie any other way. And I pretty much seesawed between those two extremes for the entire shoot.
Yeah. I mean, were there moments where you even surprised yourself, where you maybe even stretched out the time longer than you expected?
Yeah, actually, almost every shot was better than I'd conceived it. But I think that's because we were working as a team for so long. We couldn't make any decision. All departments were involved in every shot. Mm-hmm. But that never happens. Do you know what I mean? It's everyone had to be there for every shot, every second of the time. And having that much brain power and imagination and skill and talent, it just elevated it. So for me, everyone from Roger Deakins, the cinematographer, and Dennis Gassner, the production designer, and Lee Smith, the editor, who you would think would have a small job, had a significant impact on the movie.
And did you always have Roger Deakins in mind when you were visualizing this film?
Yeah, he was my go-to. I mean, he's Roger Deakins. Who wouldn't want him to shoot in a movie? You know what I mean? So yes, I mean, I've worked with him 3 times before. I knew he would challenge it as an idea. I knew he would, in an appropriate way. I think he'd say, well, I hoped you would like the script. And his first email back when I sent it to him was, wow. And the second conversation we had was, why?
Yeah.
And once he understood why, he went back to wow again. And that's how we made the film.
Do you feel your work with the Bond films help you prepare for like the muscular style filmmaking that you had to do here?
I do, yeah. I think that it was really helpful. I mean, that's not why I did it. I didn't do it as sort of crash course in action movie making, although I did have one, of course, because that's ultimately what it is, when you've not worked on a movie of that scale. But yeah, I think it makes you unafraid of some of the big bangs. You begin to understand how to integrate stunt work, special effects, visual effects on a grander scale. I mean, you just do, because that's what you're doing day in, day out. And I did it for 5 years. So, some of it goes in unconsciously. But I definitely thought about the world with less fear. As a filmmaker, you feel more capable of telling stories on a grander scale. So I was, that it was a great adventure for me, and it was very helpful in the making of this film.